The NFL is rallying behind Eric Bieniemy after a shocking shooting involving his wife turned his family's life upside down. From Chiefs stars to players who know him best, the reactions have everyone talking, and they reveal something most fans never knew about Bieniemy. Let me break it down. Eric Bieniemy is the Chiefs' offensive coordinator. He was hired back this offseason for his second stint in Kansas City, and training camp had just opened with him running drills, calling out reps, building chemistry with Patrick Mahomes and the rest of the offense. Everything about that Sunday, July 26th, looked normal. Quarterback Patrick Mahomes was seen on the field as a full participant, throwing passes to wide receiver Emmett Johnson, who also revealed he'd earned his degree from the University of Nebraska over the offseason. It was by every account a good day for the Chiefs. Then the sun went down. Mia Bieniemy was rushed to a hospital with serious injuries after she was shot inside a townhouse in the One Loudoun area of Ashburn, Virginia, with first responders called to the scene around 7:30 p.m. The man Chiefs fans had just welcomed back to the building was 4 states away when it happened. Word moved fast. Nate Taylor of ESPN reported, citing unnamed sources, that Mia Bieniemy had been hospitalized following the incident and that police in Loudoun County confirmed a person was being treated for serious injuries. Though authorities did not disclose the victim's identity, within hours that identity leaked anyway. Here's the part that turned this from a scary local story into something the entire NFL was suddenly talking about. The wife of Kansas City Chiefs offensive coordinator Eric Bieniemy was shot by the couple's son Sunday night at the family's home in Virginia. Sources told ESPN, not a break-in, not a stranger, her own son, Elijah Zion Bieniemy, 27, was arrested and charged with malicious wounding, use of a firearm in commission of a felony, and discharge of a firearm inside of a dwelling, according to the Loudoun County Sheriff's Office. Officers didn't have to guess who was involved. He was there. The injuries themselves were serious enough that they required immediate surgery. Detectives say Elijah Bieniemy shot his mother with a .22 caliber gun twice, and she underwent surgery and is now stable. 2 shots at close range inside her own home. Doctors managed to stabilize her, but the damage wasn't simple to fix. Mia Bieniemy was shot twice in the upper body and underwent surgery, but a portion of a projectile remains lodged inside her body, according to the criminal complaint. She survived. Part of what hit her, though, is still there. Neighbors on that quiet street had no idea anything was wrong until it wasn't. Ring camera video shared by a neighbor showed someone being carried by police officers. 1 second, it's a Sunday evening in the suburbs. The next, there are flashing lights outside a house that's owned by an NFL coordinator. And that's where the players come in. Because while all of this was unfolding in Virginia, Eric Bieniemy was 600 miles away, wearing a headset, coaching a football team that had no idea their coordinator's world had just been shattered. By Monday morning, Chiefs head coach Andy Reid was standing at a podium, forced to answer questions about it in front of reporters who'd shown up expecting to talk about training camp reps. Instead, he was talking about a shooting. Our hearts go out to Eric Bieniemy and his family. Our thoughts and prayers are with them, Reid told reporters, adding that he couldn't get into details, but that Eric would work through it, that he had a great support group, as did his family, and that Mia was stable, which is a plus, along with Eric Jr. Reid wasn't done. He'd known Bieniemy for over a decade, going back to his days as a running backs coach in Kansas City. Our hearts go out to Eric Bieniemy, Reid said after Monday's practice. We all love EB, and you hate seeing those things happen. It's the kind of quote that comes from someone who isn't performing sympathy for cameras. He's genuinely rattled. Reporters pressed him on how the locker room found out. Reid didn't dodge it. He said the most important thing was that Bieniemy had the opportunity to spend time with his family and take care of that business. And when asked how the team reacted to the news, Reid said they were all supportive, that everyone loved EB. That's the scene the NFL woke up to. A coordinator who'd just come home to Kansas City, ripped away from camp less than a week in, and a locker room full of players trying to process what happened to a man they respect. The story wasn't just about Bieniemy anymore. It was about how the players around him, the ones who've grown under him, been coached by him, defended him publicly before, were going to respond to watching his family go through the worst week of their lives in real time. To understand why this hit the Chiefs locker room the way it did, you have to understand what Eric Bieniemy actually means to the players who've played under him. This isn't some coordinator who just got hired off the street. This is a guy who helped build the version of the Chiefs that won championships. Bieniemy was the Chiefs' running backs coach from 2013 through 2017, before taking over as offensive coordinator from 2018 through 2022, during the emergence of quarterback Patrick Mahomes and two of the franchise's Super Bowl wins. He wasn't just present for the rise of Mahomes, he was in the room shaping it. That relationship between Bieniemy and Mahomes runs deep, and it's shown up publicly before. Years back, when a former Chiefs running back went on national television and questioned what Bieniemy actually brought to the table as a coordinator, Mahomes didn't stay quiet. There should be no questions on how great of a man Coach Bieniemy is. Mahomes tweeted at the time, "His leadership has a direct impact on the person I am today. 10 years learning under one of the greatest coaches of all time, and I cannot wait for him to continue to prove doubters wrong." Mahomes wasn't alone in that. Multiple former Chiefs players, including running back Jamal Charles and safety Tyrann Mathieu, used Twitter to support Bieniemy that same week. That's the kind of loyalty this man built over a decade in Kansas City. Players who'd moved on to other teams, other cities, still showed up for him when his name was in question. It wasn't just Chiefs alumni either. When Bieniemy left for Washington and there was public chatter questioning his coaching style, a receiver from a completely different franchise stepped in. Bieniemy's former players in Kansas City quickly came to his defense, with Miami Dolphins wide receiver Tyreek Hill saying his former coordinator made him better, posting that there was no other coach who had your back like EB, and that the tough coaching would make you better in the end. That's the pattern with Bieniemy. Every time his name gets dragged into controversy, the players he's coached across multiple organizations, multiple years, come out of the woodwork to vouch for him. He built something with these guys that outlasted job titles. So when he came back to Kansas City this offseason, after stops with the Commanders, a year at UCLA, and a season with the Chicago Bears, it wasn't a quiet homecoming. The move was welcomed by several players, including tight end Travis Kelce, who called Bieniemy one of my favorite coaches of all time, one of my favorite people of all time. That's Travis Kelce, arguably the most recognizable tight end of his generation, calling this man one of his favorite people, period, not just coaches. That's the kind of language that tells you exactly what kind of standing Bieniemy has in that building. At the end of the 2025 NFL season, the Chiefs parted ways with offensive coordinator Matt Nagy and opted to bring back Bieniemy in the role. The front office didn't just want a coordinator, they wanted their coordinator back, the guy who'd already helped deliver Super Bowl trophies. So picture the timeline again. He gets back to Kansas City, camp opens, the players are excited to have him. When the Chiefs training camp began over the weekend, many fans and players alike were excited to have Bieniemy back with the organization, finally back in a position he'd held from 2018 to 2022. And then, days later, his family's home becomes a crime scene. The players who were thrilled to see him walking the practice field again were suddenly the same players learning that his wife was in a hospital bed and his son was behind bars. That whiplash, from celebration to crisis in less than a week, is exactly why the reaction inside that building has been so raw. Reid made sure to note that the response wasn't performative. Reid said the entire team was supportive upon hearing the news. Not a few players, not just the offensive staff, the entire team. And that support had to translate into action. Fast, because a football team doesn't stop preparing for a season just because its coordinator has to leave. Someone had to run the offense while Bieniemy was gone, and that reshuffling says almost as much about the moment as any quote does. When a coordinator vanishes from camp mid-installation, in the middle of implementing his own offensive scheme with a new group of players, that's not a small logistical problem. That's a program suddenly operating with a hole in it, and everyone around Bieniemy had to figure out how to fill that hole without pretending nothing happened. Andy Reid told reporters that the team's passing game coordinator, Joe Bleymaier, and offensive line coach, Andy Heck, would expand their duties while Bieniemy attended to his injured wife. Two coaches, splitting responsibilities that had just been handed to one man days earlier. Reid framed it almost as a division of labor learned from years of running a staff through crises. Reid said there was no timetable on Bieniemy's return to the Chiefs, adding that pass game coordinator Joe Bleymaier would take over Bieniemy's duties during his absence. No end date, no promises, just a plan to keep the offense moving. That's echoed by beat reporters who were tracking it hour by hour. The Kansas City Star's Pete Sweeney noted that past game coordinator Joe Blemeyer had taken over Eric Bieniemy's on-field duties in St. Joe on Monday, with Reid noting there was no timeline on Bieniemy's return. Camp doesn't pause, it just adapts. Reid's tone in these pressers wasn't the usual coach speak. He kept circling back to something bigger than football. "We'll just see how things go," Reid said. "This is real life. You take care of that. She's a saint, one of God's good blessings. But things happen," he continued, adding, "These kinds of things happen, but there's always a blessing in there somewhere." There's a rawness to that. This is a coach who has run one of the most successful offenses in football for close to a decade, standing in front of cameras, essentially admitting that none of the playbook matters this week, compared to whether his coordinator's family survives this. Reid wasn't hiding how personally he took it either. "I can't get into details on it, but things happen sometimes, and Eric will work through it. He's got a great support group here, as does his family, as needed. And we'll just let time take care of it from there. But Mia is stable, which is a plus, and so is Eric Jr., that's all important," he said, refusing to put a hard date on his coordinator's return. Meanwhile, the news itself was still unfolding piece by piece for the people covering the team. Bieniemy hadn't even been at practice long. Bieniemy, now the Chiefs' offensive coordinator, was at training camp in Missouri when his wife reportedly was shot at their home in Virginia. He'd barely settled back into the building. The location of the shooting itself added a strange layer to the story, because Bieniemy's history with that part of Virginia goes back further than most people realized. Police were alerted to a shooting at the Bieniemy home near the Commander's practice facility, where Bieniemy had been offensive coordinator under coach Ron Rivera in 2023. The same region where he once ran an NFL offense is now the site of the worst night of his family's life. And the legal side of things kept moving even as the coaching staff scrambled. The sheriff's office said 27-year-old Elijah Zion Bieniemy was arrested and is being held without bond, charged with malicious wounding, use of a firearm in commission of a felony, and discharge of a firearm inside of a dwelling. No bond means no quick release. He's not walking out of that facility while this plays out. Investigators weren't rushing to explain a motive publicly either. Authorities have not released details on what they believe may have led up to the shooting. No history of prior incidents was cited, no context. Just the fact pattern: mother, shot twice, by her own son, inside their home. A neighbor who spoke to local reporters painted a picture that made the whole thing feel even more jarring, because by every outward account, this looked like a completely stable household. A neighbor described the Bieniemy family as a good Christian family who appeared to get along, saying he'd seen Eric and Mia just the previous weekend doing work outside their home. That's the detail that makes this hit differently than a typical crime story. This wasn't a family with a public history of turmoil. This was, from the outside, an ordinary couple doing yard work a week before. One of their sons allegedly opened fire inside their home. Back in St. Joseph, the players were left holding two competing realities. On one hand, a season to prepare for, reps to get in, a system to learn under a new coordinator. On the other, the quiet knowledge that the man running their offense had just been pulled away to deal with something no playbook prepares you for. That tension, building a football team while its architect is absent, dealing with a family tragedy states away, is what defined the early days of Chiefs training camp in 2026. It wasn't hidden. It wasn't smoothed over with generic statements. It was sitting right there. Every time a reporter asked Reid a question and got an answer about real life instead of routes and coverages. Once the news got out, it didn't stay contained to Chiefs beat writers and a press conference podium. It spread through football media and fan communities in a way that turned into a wave of public sympathy, most of it landing on Mia Bieniemy specifically. Immediately after the news, fans and media members poured in with heartfelt messages for one of the best offensive minds in the entire league, with James Palmer of Bleacher Report showcasing his praying hands. That's a national NFL reporter, not just a local Chiefs account, reacting within hours. Kansas City's own fan ecosystem reacted almost in real time. Chiefs Talk was shocked by the news, writing WTF, prayers up for Mrs. B. A similar reaction followed, with HBTC joining in with "Oh my God, man," while Daily Chiefs responded, "This is absolutely terrible to hear." Other Chiefs-adjacent media voices added their own messages. Alex Gold of the Fan 965 showcased his support for Bieniemy and his wife, writing, "My goodness, all the best to EB and his family." One after another, People connected to the team's coverage were stopping their normal programming to acknowledge what had happened. There was also an effort almost immediately to make sure the story didn't get twisted before all the facts were out. Another member of the Chiefs fan base, Lexi Osborne, wrote, "Before any crazies jumped to conclusions, Eric Bieniemy's wife was at their home in Virginia, where this horrific incident happened. He was in St. Joseph, Mo. Prayers up to the Bieniemy family. I really hope his wife will be okay." While Nate Taylor provided an update, writing that Mia Bieniemy was in stable condition, according to a source. Even replies under Nate Taylor's original reporting turned into small prayer chains. One person responded to the news with a three-part message that stuck with a lot of people who saw it. First, we need to pray for his wife's health and recovery. Second, pray for the son to have remorse and to be sentenced if he truly was the shooter. Third, pray that the offense will find strong leaders in each unit to step up and step above the expectations of EB to make him proud. That single reply captures the strange emotional split this story created. Grief for the mother, complicated feelings about the son, and underneath all of it, a football team still trying to figure out how to function without its coordinator physically present. National outlets picked it up fast too, connecting Bieniemy's situation to the broader Chiefs organization that had already been through public scares this offseason. One report referenced a separate incident entirely, a burglary crew that had targeted the homes of Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce, which had recently been arrested in Argentina, showing just how much scrutiny NFL players' homes and families have been under lately. Reid, for his part, kept underlining that the club wanted to protect the family's privacy even while confirming details publicly. The club is aware of the incident involving Eric Bieniemy's family. Out of respect for their privacy, we won't have a comment at this time. Our thoughts and prayers are with them, the team said in its official statement, a line that got repeated across nearly every outlet covering the story. That balance, acknowledging something serious happened while trying to shield the family from a media circus, is a tightrope teams walk often, but rarely with this level of public attention. This wasn't a minor injury report. This was a coordinator's family in crisis, playing out while cameras were rolling at training camp for an entirely different reason. And through it all, one thing kept surfacing again and again in the reactions. Whether from players, coaches, or fans, nobody was talking about scheme or depth charts. Every message was about the man himself, the mentor, the coach who'd shaped Mahomes, the guy Kelce called one of his favorite people alive, and about a wife fighting to recover from something no family should have to go through. Days after the shooting, the picture that's emerged is one of an organization trying to hold space for grief while still fielding a football team. Bieniemy hadn't returned to camp, and nobody in the building was pretending to know when he would. Mia was reported to be in stable condition, while Bieniemy remained away from the team and was not present for Monday's camp practice. The legal process for his son is only beginning. Elijah Zion Bieniemy was arrested and charged with malicious wounding, use of a firearm in commission of a felony, and discharge of a firearm inside of a dwelling, and is being held without bond in Loudoun County, with the sheriff's office noting the investigation is ongoing. Nothing about that timeline is fast. Court dates, arraignments, potential trial. This stretches out for months at minimum. For Bieniemy, the football calendar doesn't stop to accommodate any of that. Training camp keeps rolling. Roster cuts loom. The regular season is weeks away. But nobody around that team, from Reid down to the players, has treated this like a distraction to be managed. It's been treated like exactly what it is, a family in crisis, and a coordinator who needs time that the sport doesn't usually grant anyone. What stands out looking back at how this all played out isn't just the shock of the initial news. It's how consistent the response was from everyone connected to Bieniemy going back years before this shooting ever happened. Mahomes defending him against public criticism. Hill saying no coach had his back like EB. Kelce calling him one of his favorite people on earth before any of this happened. Jamal Charles and Tyrann Mathieu showing up for him from other locker rooms entirely. That loyalty didn't appear out of nowhere the week his family was in crisis. It had already been built quote by quote, defense by defense, over more than a decade of coaching relationships. When the news broke about Mia, that foundation is exactly why the reaction from the Chiefs' orbit felt less like routine sympathy and more like people genuinely worried about someone they consider family. Reid's own words summed up where the organization landed on it, and it's worth sitting with the way he framed it, rather than brushing past it. We all love EB, and you hate to see these kinds of things happen, but there's always a blessing in there somewhere. he said, choosing to focus on Mia's survival and Eric Jr.'s well-being. Rather than the darker parts of the story, he wasn't willing to detail publicly. Bieniemy still doesn't have a timetable to return. The offense he was just starting to rebuild is being run, for now, by two other coaches splitting his responsibilities. His wife is recovering from wounds that left part of a bullet still inside her. His son sits in a detention center without bond, facing felony charges that carry real prison time. And a locker room that welcomed him back with open arms less than 2 weeks ago is left waiting, the same way the rest of the football world is, for any word on how Mia is doing, and when the man they call EB might walk back through that door. NBC Sports report, wife of Chiefs OC Eric Bieniemy was shot on Sunday night at their home in Virginia. A BC7 News, wife of Kansas City Chiefs Eric Bieniemy shot at couple's home, ESPN sources say. Fox 4 KC, Kansas City Chiefs coach Eric Bieniemy's wife shot by son at Virginia home. Police, ESPN, wife of Chiefs Eric Bieniemy, allegedly shot by couple's son at home. Yahoo Sports, wife of Chiefs offensive coordinator Eric Bieniemy, reportedly shot at couple's home. Son Elijah arrested. NBC Washington, wife of Eric Bieniemy shot in Ashburn. Couple's son arrested, authorities say. NBC News, wife of Kansas City Chiefs OC Eric Bieniemy, allegedly shot by their son. Heavy.com, Chiefs coach Eric Bieniemy's wife shot. Details of serious injuries revealed. Heavy.com. Chiefs Eric Bieniemy takes action after news of wife shooting. Report. CBS Sports, wife of Chiefs OC Eric Bieniemy shot at Virginia home. Son arrested and charged. SAS. Everything we know about Eric Bieniemy's wife being shot. Chicago Sun-Times. Former Bears assistant coach Eric Bieniemy's wife in stable condition after shooting. Yahoo Sports. Offensive coordinator Eric Bieniemy's wife reportedly shot Sunday night. Yahoo Sports. Absolutely terrible to hear. Prayers pour in for Eric Bieniemy's wife Mia. Pro Football Network. Absolutely terrible to hear. Prayers pour in for Eric Bieniemy's wife Mia. KCTV5 Police. Wife of Chiefs offensive coordinator Eric Bieniemy shot at Virginia home. Son arrested. Yahoo Sports, Chiefs Andy Reid. Our hearts go out to Eric Bieniemy and his family. Arrowhead Pride. Chiefs Andy Reid. Our hearts go out to Eric Bieniemy and his family. Selena Post, Chiefs quotes 7-27-26. Ex-Nate Taylor. Eric Bieniemy has left the Chiefs to support Mia. Fox News, Eric Bieniemy's son jailed for shooting his mother. AOL Chiefs Patrick Mahomes hopes Eric Bieniemy continues to prove doubters wrong. Fox News, Chiefs Patrick Mahomes, Eric Bieniemy's coaching style made me a better player. NBC Sports Fantasy, Bieniemy's wife in stable condition after shooting. https://www.nbcsports.com's fantasy football player news. Squash 2026 7-27b. Bieniemy's wife in stable condition after shooting.